Morning, welcome to this webinar. It's o'clock, so we shall make a start. I'll also point out to everyone attending this morning that this webinar is being recorded. So, faster business solution delivery with SharePoint and K2, find out how session, presented by myself, Ian Woodgate, and several of my colleagues who I should introduce in a second. Now, I want to start by posing a question for you to ponder while we go through the session. My question has nothing to do with the IT or solution. The question is simply this. If ski, I think about what's the objective of your skiing holiday, and we'll come back to that question later. Okay, let's do some introductions. I'm the Managing Director of SharePoint Specialist Point Beyond Limited. We're joined today by Adam Castle, Senior Technical Specialist from K2, who will be talking about K2 and also providing some demos. And I'm also joined by Simon Wright, Managing Consultants from Point Beyond. You can see a photo here. Simon's obviously just completed a successful project of great importance to himself. Can't think what that might have been. So the agenda for today is really as follows. I'll speak for a few minutes about the need for business solutions, and I'm going to talk in particular about business pressure and business change. I'm then going to talk a little about the optimal approach to delivery of solutions, and then hand over to Adam, who will be explaining how SharePoint and K2 can help. We'll then on to some demos. Now, it's important to realise that these demos are just examples of the kind of things that you can do with SharePoint and K2. I want to stress that both of the solutions we're looking at today were quickly delivered with zero custom code. Let's now and look more generally about the kind of solutions that I'm talking about. So, the aim of solutions really is to improve productivity and control through automation, integration of existing systems, and reporting. So with many organisations that we work with, we find there are a number of processes that are managed by email, they're managed by paper, Excel, scanning, and so forth. I mean, I've even come across scenarios where people mail documents to each other, they then print them out, they sign them, they scan back in, and then they email them back. So there's all these kind of things going on. And those processes are slow, they're inefficient, and they're error-prone. And there's all meaningful reporting behind them. But at the same time, it's important to realise that this isn't about replacing your existing systems. It's more really likely to be about improving integration with your existing systems. That said, we're doing work with some customers who are actually looking to replace existing legacy software. A common scenario that we come across of that type is actually replacing Lotus Notes. So let's look next at what is driving the need for these kind of solutions. So I this out into two themes. I'm going to talk firstly about business pressure and then business change. So back, we commissioned some independent research into the need for applications within organisations, and we published the results in a white paper. It was an exercise for us to do. We actually got a great response, which surprised even the organisation doing the research, and it made us think that we definitely struck a chord with many people. There's a lot in the white paper. It's freely available on our website, so I would urge you to download it and have a look at it if you think that might be of interest. However, for today's session, I want to highlight two findings, which really are as follows. The first thing that we found is that instead of enabling growth and profitability, most organisations, about 2/3, technology actually constraining it. So 2/3 of our respondents felt that IT was actually holding their business back rather than enabling them to do more. Something that I found very interesting is that we identified that there was a mounting backlog of applications awaiting delivery within organisations. So over 2/3, 60% of respondents said they had a moderate to serious backlog of applications that they needed to deliver to their business. And decision makers are under pressure to deliver more and more with fewer resources. It concludes that maintaining applications, what we call an applications deficit, this kind of shortage of application delivery capability, is actually more harmful to business than actually moving forwards and addressing the backlog. The area I want to talk about that's driving the need for these kind of applications is business change. So the rate of business change that we're seeing is greater than ever before, and this is for several good reasons. We continue to operate, as everyone is aware, in tough economic times. The internet and improved communications has made it easier than ever for organisations to compete globally, which is an opportunity but also a threat. Also in governments who are looking to introduce regulations and controls in an attempt to avoid repeats of some of the recent problems that we've seen. And lastly, consumers now have a huge amount of power, largely to things like social media and legislation that aims to protect them. So, success businesses excuse me, need solutions that can be delivered quickly and that can be changed as the business changes. Forrester White Paper, Architect for the Next Digital Decade, introduced this term of sustainable business agility, which I think sums it up quite nicely. What we've seen is we're under pressure to deliver flexible solutions quickly. Let's look at how we can do that. There are some options for delivering solutions. I'm going to go into this in more detail and identify four, which are as follows. The first one is simply make do without box SharePoint and associated tools such as SharePoint Designer and InfoPath Forms. The second is actually purchase a line of business system, such as a finance package or an HR package. The third option to deliver what we need is to custom code. And is to go for configuration of purchased components, such as smart forms and workflow. So, for the purpose of this presentation, I'm going to consider the quite common scenario where out-of-the-box SharePoint just doesn't have the capabilities and the complexity and the functionality that you need, and there are no suitable options for above-the-shelf system. So we're going to focus on home in on and compare the last two options, custom code and configuration of tools. So this decision organisations often face is a common scenario. Let's go in more detail and start with custom code. Custom is often the default starting point when a solution is needed, because with custom you can do anything, right? It's almost the easy tactical solution. There's Visual Studio up on the shelf. You can reach for it, get some development resources in, and start coding away to get what you want. However, there are some definite problems in the longer term with this approach. Anyone who's worked on any IT development projects will know it's inherently slow and it's inherently risky. There's the ongoing ownership as well, both for your initial development and the ongoing support and maintenance of a custom code solution. There's complexity of migration should you choose to migrate from one version of, say, SharePoint to another version as a platform on which you're running your custom code. There's also the challenge of developer availability and the cost and shortage of decent developers, especially SharePoint developers, and the reliance on individuals who know the code, and if they leave your organisation or they were brought in on a contract or as a third party, they may no longer be available. What we commonly see with custom code is that the complexity increases over time. So as you try to build in more and more functionality to your solution, it becomes require more and more effort to do so, and delivers diminished benefits. But it's notoriously hard to change. If your business changes, you may be looking at a big reworking project to make a change. And last thing, as anyone who's managed an IT project, code project will know, just do estimations and estimate time and estimating costs is prone to error and uncertainty with custom coding. The custom really has its problems. The our second approach is actually looking at using appropriate tools to deliver solutions through configuration instead of code. So this is the so-called no-code approach. If we can build no-code tools instead of custom code, then we can deliver our applications more quickly to business. And that keeps our business leaders happy because they'll be satisfied as they see results more quickly and they get a better return on their investment. With our code solutions, we can quickly and easily change them and adapt them as our business changes because it's a configuration change, it's a coding change. However, if you're going to take this approach, you obviously need to make investment upfront in the tools that you're going to use, and that can be a challenge. So it requires a degree of holistic thinking to take this approach. It's kind of tackling each application in isolation. We kind of do it as cheaply as possible approach. Perhaps, and commonly see that happening at a department by department level, with department holders owning department owners holding budgets. If that, the chances are that you will go down the custom code route because it seems cheaper in the outset. In a minute, that can actually lead to high expenditure and more outcomes than a properly considered strategy. And the approach is surprisingly common. A quote from the Forrester paper I mentioned earlier, the biggest single challenger to investments in sustainable business agility is the drive towards short-term business results. Okay. This chart illustrates the problem, I hope. So let's imagine that we want to deliver one solution for our business. Let's say, for the sake of argument, it could be anything, but let's say it's document numbering. If you do it through custom code, you start off here, you make some investment, you get some people on board, they do some design work, some requirements gathering, some analysis, and then you have to buy things like Visual Studio, and they start delivering some code, and you start to see some benefit, and you maybe get up to about here. Your alternative might be to actually buy some additional tools such as K2 that would allow you to deliver the solution through configuration, the kind of code approach. So we've got the analysis and the design work up front, but in addition now we've got the cost of our tool, so maybe up to this point here, and then we start to deliver something with our tool. But because we've got the tool, we can deliver things more quickly, so we're on a steeper line. But we end up around about here, where the pointer is now, for our second, for our application. And the trouble is here is actually custom code has ended up actually being cheaper. It's actually require investment to deliver the same amount of benefit because I'm comparing being here to being here. What happens, of course, is that you decide you want to add something else. You need another application. Let's say you want to improve your customer onboarding process. And of course, is you start to track up these lines. Of course, it's always cross. And the one you can always guarantee is that you will end up wanting to deliver more than you thought at the start. So the question is, you need to be, how far these lines are you going to track, and are you going to reach this crossing over point? In experience, you inevitably do reach this crossing point. And what you have to be sure is that you don't end up down here on the blue line where you've actually invested a lot less benefit than, say, being here somewhere where actually you could have invested less. And because you made that strategic choice at the outset, you're actually in a better place than had you chosen custom code. Our skiing analogy to just finish that explanation. So at the start I asked what the objective was for a skiing holiday. And say you said that you wanted to do it as cheaply as possible. Here to do that, you can climb the mountains yourself and then ski down when you reach the top. And a long uphill struggle to do, it's time consuming, it's risky, it requires specialist skills and equipment. It's what you would have done in the past, say 100 years ago if you went skiing. So say you took that approach and say your holiday cost £1,000 for 7 days. Because you had to climb your mountains every day to ski them down. You might do perhaps 2 runs down mountains a day, so that might end up costing you £71 per run. Instead, that you decided when you bought your skiing holiday that you were going to pay an extra £100 and buy a ski pass as well. You have to pay for the cost of the pass up front, but it gets you to the top quicker and allows you to do more skiing. So it gives you access to a capability to get up mountains more quickly. So if on a skiing holiday your objective is to ski as much as possible, you can pass for an additional £100, but you say 10 runs a day rather than just 2, and actually then our cost per run actually ends up being much cheaper. Instead of £71 per run, it's only now £14 per run. But the key thing to remember is you had to make that investment in the ski pass in the first place. So just to summarise that, the objective is to ski as much as possible. You've got to climbing on foot, it's risky, it leads to fewer runs and a higher cost per run. You want to go buy a ski pass and use the lifts, you get runs in, it's a risk and lower cost per run. If we map through to our requirements for business solutions, if we map that through to our requirement for business solutions, what is that we see choice. If our objective is to make our business more efficient and higher achieving, if we do custom code, it's risky, it's slow, it's maintenance, there's lack of flexibility. If we do no code approach, we get fast, flexible, scalable solutions, low cost of delivery per application. So, in summary, we just up front in a ski pass. In summary, you would invest up front in a ski pass as you know the value that it will bring. My argument and the purpose of my analogy is that you should view the investment in strategic tools for delivery of solutions in the same way. So I hope that makes sense and you've enjoyed that. I'm now going to hand over to Adam, who will talk a little bit in detail about how K2 can be used to deliver solutions, and go on to the first of our demo. Over to him.
Okay, thanks Ian. Okay, I'm going to share my desktop here. Okay, so basically K2 is all about building application solutions without code. So K2 lets us produce workflows, it lets us go to different line of business systems, maybe the SQL Server, SAP, SharePoint. We can actually then create reports and also display these data on different forms. Okay. We have the main components of K2, which of course are workflows, forms, reports, and data. Okay. In terms of forms, we have K2 Smart Forms, which web-based technology allows us to build complex forms that look at your business data, that can help kick off workflows and interact with your workflow. Have out-of-the-box reporting on to objects, see what's happening within your process, and so combine process and business data. Have 3 different workflow designers. A simple, easy to use site designer for the power users. K2 Studio, which is a thick client designer, allows you to build more complex processes. And so K4 Visual Studio, which allows the developer to actually get under the hood if they want and write some code. Of course, then we have the data side. So we provide technology called K2 Smart Objects, allows us to connect to the different line of business systems such as SharePoint, SQL, and then bring back the data. And of course, then use them within the workflow, the forms, and the reports. Okay. Ian, if you're going to take the slide.
Sure thing. Just take myself off mute. So, So, how does SharePoint and K2 help? Well, as I alluded to earlier, what SharePoint and K2 do is they give us the tools and the capability to build our solutions quickly and at low risk through configuration and not custom code. As a result of that, we can deliver solutions that are low maintenance and that are agile and maintainable in the longer term. What that gives us is it gives us the ability to improve our efficiency through making our processes more efficient, for example, through automating processes, replacing paper-based and manual processes with forms and workflows. It also allows us to actually improve compliance. We may be able to have audit trails and track what's been done and who's done it and when. And all of the final advantages is that by using these tools to do a range of applications, we're able to present our end users with a consistent and integrated experience of end user experience, so that they see a familiar and common set of tools. And that could be something as simple as, say, showing people a consolidated list of all the tasks and actions that they have to undertake. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to be showing you a demonstration today, and it's on declaration of interest. Okay, so we're finding that more and more organizations are offering a more flexible solution. Okay, so something that can be dynamically changed very easy by the end user. This solution is built using K2 Black Pearl for the actual workflow side. We're using K2 Smart Forms, okay, to actually display the data. We're going to SharePoint to actually hold all the forms, and also all the data is actually stored within SQL Server. And we have smart objects that actually point to SQL Server to bring back the data. So, in terms of the actual solution, it's about being able to change your survey, being very flexible in terms of managing the questions. We're using K2 Smart Forms, as I mentioned, and whether maybe like a person is maybe a contractor or a partner, we're actually going to hide and show some of these questions. We can text help within the survey questions, and then we actually can manage the exceptions for each of the questions and actually send them to like a team for a review. So I'm just going to show the demonstration. So, as I mentioned, this section is all about providing a list of questions to users that have to answer, and each will get a set of questions, and depending on how they answer the question, we may save that as an exception and then send it to another team to review. So let's look at the questions. Okay, the questions are held with SQL Server. As I mentioned, we have a smart object that points to the server table, and a form that displays that data from SQL Server. So you see we have a list of questions. Okay, we have little tooltips. Okay, and we also have question groups as well. So each question is grouped. It allows us to actually manage the different forms as well. See that for every question group, we have a separate page. Okay, we also have specified and configure, depending on what the answer, this will actually raise an exception, and depending on the answer, do actually require a comment. As I mentioned, if it does raise an exception, then it will actually pass this question to the legal team for response, for review, and they can deal with that. Okay, so what we're going to do is actually start the survey. Okay, so actually we have some users that we need to retrieve. So this list of users could come literally from anywhere. It could be within SAP, could be within iCall. We actually have an Excel spreadsheet, okay, with a list of users. So I'm just going to take this Excel spreadsheet or link to it. Okay, you can see that we have a list of users. We have 3 users. We have the display name, user name, the person is. So with the partner, contractor, or staff. And as mentioned, depending on the person type, we're going to hide and show different questions. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is click on Start Survey. survey. And what it's going to do is it's going to start a process for each of those people, and it's going to take a snapshot of those questions for every person to answer the questions. So back at my home screen, I'm just going to read the page here. Okay, so we have pointed to hold all of our forms. Okay, we have a K2 task list at the top. Okay, also we have a task as well. So the process has started, and we're now we've notified the person they actually have a task to complete. We also see the task within our work list item. I can open this up, I can select this item, I can redirect it to other people if I want. We also have a list of current surveys that are currently active. So we can see that 3 surveys were created. One for Bob, one for Adam. Okay, the person type, and see the number of questions they need to complete. Okay, we can see the status is not started. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up. Okay, this is of course the survey, and we can actually now then go through these questions. So the questions are: am I FSA registered? I'm going to say yes to that. Am I client facing? I'll say yes to that as well. Okay, you can start to see these appearing at the top, and so it will actually dictate what questions we see. So we're just going to proceed to the next section, which was manuals. Here we have a list of questions. Do we follow the principles? We're just going to say yes to this one. We can play with this manual here. Say yes to that. Okay. You can see that these questions also have tooltips, so we can actually click on these and get context-driven help for these. Okay, so in this case we're going to select yes, and what we're going to do here is actually say that no, we don't comply with that. I'm just going to say, read this policy. Okay, see that because we've actually selected no, we then require a comment. Proceed to the next section. I'm just going to select yes for each of these questions. You can see that some of the questions are hidden because we are a partner. Okay, I'm just going to finished. Okay, this will complete the list of questions. So if I now go back to my main screen and I refresh my questionnaire overview, okay, you can see they've completed their section. Adam has completed his section. He's answered the 9 questions. Okay, and his exception, this flags up. Okay, you can see the little icon appearing here, and we can see that it's in the status of exception tasks. Okay, so what I want to do now is actually just look at the view of this. Okay, so if we look at this, we can actually see an overview of the survey. We can see once again total questions answered, exceptions and exceptions remaining. So how many exceptions are still remaining to be reviewed and completed. Okay, and we can also then see these questions that they've answered. We can see the ticks, no exceptions, and of course we can see the warning symbol against the item that had an exception. So if we click on the view flow, flow is one of the other box components of K2. It's a process is currently running. In this case, it's a process running for our parcel. Okay, it's come down to the questionnaire section, his completed section, and then using the K2 line rules and the business we can then see how many exceptions he has. So if he has any, now moved across to another section, exception tasks, and as mentioned, every single task you have, an item will be sent to a legal team for review. So for tasks, now see we've actually started the sub-process for this. Okay, here we can actually see our sub-process. Okay, click on this. Okay, actually tell which people have the task. So box K2 will audit when the process starts, when it finishes, when someone gets a task, what time they get the task, how long it's been active for, and of course when they've completed the task, who completed it, and also how they completed it, accept or reject, whatever the action is. So we can see that it's gone to legal team for review. What we'll do is we're just going to go down to the shortcuts on my screen. The right hand side, I'm going to select legal. I'm going to select Jonathan. This is just a very easy way for myself to open up another screen as a user. And you'll see on the top right hand side of the screen, we've opened as Jonathan King. So the task, okay, as is part of the legal team, I'm going to open up this task. Okay. So in terms of this task is related specifically to the question that had the exception. So if we look at the question group, we can actually see all our questions in that question group. Okay, which ones had the exceptions, which ones are compliant. Okay, so in this case, he's reading through, and what I'm going to do is, he said, I read the policy. So as part of the legal team, we're actually just going to add the policy document into the task. Okay, and send a message to Jonathan to say, please read. Then once you've read it, that's fine. We're happy with that. Okay, please read the attached material. Policy. Okay, and we're just going to send that back to Adam to then complete and accept. Okay, so we're going to close the screen as Jonathan and go back to my main screen. So we can see the actual tasks has come back. Okay, open this up. We can see through comment by Jonathan. Okay, we can see the general comments as well. Jonathan, please read. And if select the related documents, we can actually then see the document as well, the actual new policy document that we need to read. So in this, I'm just going to tell Jonathan read and accept this. Okay, and we actually have an ability if we want to actually then close this task ourselves. I'm just going to say I've read and understand all attached material. Submit this, and that will complete the task. So you'll see very shortly the task will actually move to the next stage, which will be complete. And if I click exception review, as I said before, K2 does audit everything that happens, and we can see that Jonathan completed the task with more information required. So he's actually sent it back to the originator. Okay, we can see the task has then now moved on, and the task has completed. Okay, come back to this in here and do a quick refresh. Okay, you can see we can see the total exceptions is 1. Remaining is now nothing. There's nothing. It's all outstanding. It's all complete. In terms of the current or the one exception that we had, we can see this is now complete as well. Okay. We can click on this task if you want and see a preview of the actual question and the exception details, so we can see what happened, the comments, if you reviewed any comment made, and of course general comments on that question. So if we now go back to the main screen and do a quick refresh, okay, you will now see that the overview screen, we now have a tick against that person. Okay, see there's no more exceptions remaining, and we're happy with what's done, and basically this person is now compliant with the company's policies. Okay, so I'm going to jump out of my information. Okay, so in summary, the solution was built in 1 or 3 days. It goes to show you how fast you can build solutions with K2 Smart Forms, and SharePoint. Okay, you can see there's increased visibility over the process. We can actually see people have surveyed, who's completed it, how many exceptions are currently outstanding and have been raised per survey, and of course provides a better management on the reporting around this as well. I'm actually going to hand over to Simon.
If you could go sharing your slides, that'd be fantastic.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Adam. Hi everyone, I'm Simon. And I see that picture at the beginning of the slide deck. I can let you know, for those that are interested, that the project I just finished was called Marriage, which is making so happy and relieved. Okay, so we're going to run through another demo, 10 minutes or so, leave some time at the end for questions. This is something that we delivered for a building society, and unlike lots of building societies, these guys offer bespoke mortgage services. So relationships with their brokers that pass them business are very important to them. When we were working with them, their mortgage application process was quite manual, real tracking, very paper, email, post-fax, phone-based, that kind of stuff. As the broker, if I wanted an update from this building society, I would email, phone them up, a way of tracking what was going on with my applications. So an application for them using K2 Smart Forms, Perl for the process, very similar to this demo. SharePoint as a wrapper to display a lot of the web parts and reports, but also to store configuration items, and we'll have a little look at that in a minute. SQL Server for storing the data, everything's in one place. We could also use SQL Server reporting services to return some great reports around that information. So, Adam, if you could pull up the application for me.
Hey, okay.
So if you could got that up on screen, that'd be great.
Okay, on screen.
Good.
I'm just showing my whole desktop, not the individual link. Is that okay?
Sure.
Yep.
We can see that mortgage application, the broker portal. That's fine.
Yep, that's going to be fine, Simon.
Fantastic. Right, let's press on then. Okay, so as I said, the relationship between this building society and the brokers that they worked with is very important to them. So the first thing we're going to look at is the broker portal. This is an extranet-style portal based in SharePoint that the brokers could log into and see where they're at with their current applications. So you can see on the list we have at the bottom here, we've got a number of applications. Very similar to the last process we saw, the last demo. We can see what stage all of these applications are at. So you can see we're in, scroll to the right, we're logged in as broker company Charcoal. For those of you that have got a mortgage, you may have dealt with these guys in the past. the number of applications that they've submitted to this building society, and some have been declined, approved, and some are actually at a credit committee stage, which is kind of like a decision stage as to whether the building society is going to approve the mortgage or not. What we're going to do, first off, let's submit a new AIP request. An AIP stands for Agreement in Principle. It's kind of the first stage of a mortgage, and it's to say from the building society, yes, in principle, happy to lend you that money, but need to back up some of the info. So on screen we have a web form based on a paper-based form. In fact, it's pretty like for like on their paper-based form using smart forms. Because the demo, I've got a little button here that says load demo data because you don't really want to see me plowing through all of this. Smart, flexible. You can see we've got an image at the top. We can have logos and all sorts of things. Having a little chat actually. It's an extension they're trying to build or something. Areas that K2 does really well are things like integrating with web services. So, for example, I just postcode in the postcode box. I've got this little icon with a little blue axis, and it will refresh. It's going to go off and call a web service and pass that postcode and bring me back the current address. Also examples of integration with web services as we go through. That's something that K2 does out of the box, and K2 Black Pearl handles very, very easily. There are scroll bar issues here, but that's okay. So roll through to the bottom of this form. Now, I'm playing a role at the moment, and I'm very comfortable with how to work with this building society. I know that they're going to ask me for some information to support this AIP application. So I've got the opportunity here to attach files at the bottom, which I'm now going to do. So I scan. I'm going to payslips. Then submit the form. Now, in the sort of very manual process, what would have happened now is the form would have been emailed, posted, across perhaps, and once the building society received it, they manually run a credit check. Now, as before, because K2 is very good with integrating with web services, we can actually call a web service to run that credit check, and this is what this credit check confirmation box is all about. It's basically saying, are you sure you want to proceed with this application because you're going to automatically run a credit check? That's exactly what we want to do. So yes, okay. Fantastic. So for this list at the bottom, what we'll see is that a new item's been added, and we can see the workflow stage, it's initializing. It's doing some lots of bits and pieces there, including credit checks and other kind of things. So if I go over to my email, which has handily logged me out, just log in. So we'll see, hopefully as my screen catches up, is that as the broker, I've received an email basically giving me instructions as to what to do next in order to progress the application. So here we've got an application PDF, so let me click on that. Open that up. You can see that we've got a representation of that form, which has been saved as PDF. As part of A2 process, it's great information. It patches it up as PDF and sends it via email. But also at the bottom, we can see that there's some new things that have been added. Conditions. Now, these conditions are stored in SharePoint. I'll show you that in a little bit later on as we're logged in as an underwriter. I should be able to show you where, it works very well with lots of data sources, we can store configuration in SharePoint, making it easy to change this kind of text without complex coding or IT requests. But also at the bottom, we've got some signature boxes and a date box. And if we read the instructions on the email, it says quite clearly that we need to print that card off and scan it and reply to this email, attaching it to progress the application. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So let me write to this email. application. 6 out of 10 for Tommy. Okay. As it's the world of wonderful day, we already have a signed application form, so let's attach that and we'll send that straight back. Great stuff. Okay. So he's doing his magic in the background. Let's log in. Someone working at the Building Society, working the underwriters team. Underwriters are the people that are going to have to decide if the Building Society are prepared to lend on this or not. In the last application, K2 has this wonderful thing of line rules. You can have some quite complex business logic on those rules, and it can decide where to bunch different tasks and different sets of the workflow. So look at the top here. We've got a task list that you'll recognise from the previous demo, and we'll see that we've got 3 applications currently in progress. 2 of them sat at the credit committee, one at underwriter, that's the one we've just submitted. And a loan amount on the left, just to the left of the siege column. The reason for branch is based on value. So if anything is lent over 500,000, to go over to the credit committee, because there's no risk for them, so there needs to be rigor around that lending. Because Adam's only wanting to borrow 200,000, it's sat with the underwriter, which is great. Just to point out here, we've got again another list of the recent applications. We can see the state they're at, declined and approved. On the have a graph, just very simple to show you what current applications we have and at what stage they're at. So it's kind of a quick reckoning to see where you're at with your current kind of pipeline of applications. See, we've got some at credit committee and some at underwriter. So we've got a pie chart here, update live, and we'll see this a little later as we progress through the application. And the ones that are approved, declined, and expired. Actually, quite a key one for this building society. Had no way of expiring applications. They didn't know when brokers were not going to pursue an application. So we were able to set SLAs. I'll click over to set SLAs so that after a certain number of days after perhaps a request for information goes to a broker, if they don't come back to you, the application was expired. And it's a way of keeping their sort of building society's pipeline fresh and relevant rather than having old applications that aren't going to be progressed. So a little bit about contextual stuff held in SharePoint that we were going to use as part of the process. And if we click onto the form text, we can see that is the text for the terms and conditions that we attach to the bottom of that PDF. So it's very easy for the business to be able to amend this text if they want different things or the terms and conditions change. No need to involve IT. Actually have an approval process on this so that it's not changed in an unsolicited way, but certainly much more flexible for people. Okay, so a number of other things have happened. The SharePoint site has been spun up. Another this mortgage application case, and this is something using K2's case management system. A lot of information in here for Tom, who's in the underwriting team already. We've got statements we attached earlier in the pay slips. We've got an email here which has been captured, which was the one that we sent back with the signed application form, which has also been captured there with the case. I click over the email here, I see, thanks very much, please sign the signed application. So we get all the information to do with this application, rather than it being faxed and emailed and have to be manually collated. We've got the application form saved, so Tom can do that, but we've done that already. We also have a credit check that was performed as part of that click to say, yes, we're going to perform a credit check. Gone and integrated the web service, brought back the credit information for Adam. Obviously had about 2011 there. So we have a task here, so let's open that task. Have a look what the underwriter needs to do. Okay, I can review the application form. Let's just assume that Tom is fine with the application, but he needs some more information. So he's going to request some information. He's going to request assets and liabilities. So please complete to your application. Fantastic. And we could define a demo, this will expire. Again, helping things move along rather than things just being sat endlessly standing. So that's that. Add comments. And we'll set to the broker. Fantastic. So last demo, we can make use of view flow. What was that has come down to the underwriter, and now it's gone over back to broker review. Log in into the broker very quickly. Refresh that page. Fantastic. So we'll now get a notification. I know I've got an email as well. I won't show you that because we're a little short on time. So here, assets and liabilities, please complete. Form here in front of us to do that, so I'll add a row, and again, lovely load demo data. Any life is this easy, heavy, filling out forms. So I'll add a rows in there. This is our application. All this. We'll add a back. You can see K2 is helping us track all of the conversations and all of the emails that are flying about, which is really useful. Let's make sure that's saved. It is. Top leads. And we'll submit that. So refresh that as a broker. My task is gone. I've done what I need to do, and it's gone back to this stage here on the workflow stage. Is the underwriter. Suppose we have a task back to us. So let's have a look at that task. Later. Great. If we click at RFI, got some information in there. Tom read out the application and he can accept it. He's happy with that application. If we submit, we'll see at some point very shortly, and the view flow is going to go through the underwriter stage. It looks like I've just got a text message. Well, for those of you that support a mobile number on your sort of webinar registration, you may have received a text message say that your AIP request has been accepted. So congratulations. Definitely. Look at some of the reports. We can see we've got the pie chart has changed because we have another application that's been approved. For management reporting, we can put information out of SQL using SQL service, SQL for reporting services. Important to the mortgage company because they want to be able to manage their brokers and see who's putting through the most business and how many things are declined and expired and that kind of thing. So give power to track where they're at currently. Next, the broker to say their AIP is successful, they can let their customer know straight away. Also, the building society's kind of mortgage management team can go out and see these brokers, armed with information about what business they put last month, what products they're buying, what applications have been put through, how many have been declined, and all that great stuff. So that concludes that demo. Adam, if we could skip that last slide, the summary slide. We'll just run through what we've seen and then to Ian to close up and any questions that you may have, I guess.
Okay.
So, processes, portal, reports, all of that was built within 10 days. A lot of it is out-of-the-box integration with things like web and SMS services, which give you real flexibility and for better customer service. Code, if you want to change some of the configuration items, as we saw, we could change perhaps the terms and condition text or the FAs really quickly, simply, and that would be reflected in the process itself. And so combining K2 and SharePoint really gives you the flexibility you need to deliver applications quickly. Not only that, you can manage them in a much easier way and also sort of terminate that responsibility away from the IT teams and into the hands of the business users that know it best. Fantastic. So I think if you could hand back control to Ian, he's going to finish up the presentation.
If you just go on to the last slide, that would be great.
Okay, cool.
So, thank you very much, everyone. Just to summarise then, what we've looked at today, we've looked at the need for business solutions, we've looked at business change and business pressure that's driving the need to deliver solutions more quickly. We've talked about the need for optimal approach to delivering solution and the advantages of using configuration rather than custom code. I've also taken a look in detail at how SharePoint and K2 can help deliver solutions through configuration rather than code. We've covered off a couple of nice demos regarding declarations of interest and mortgage application processing. I think what's amazing about those demos is just how quickly those solutions were put together by the guys. Just leaves me now to thank everyone very much for attending, and I see we've got a couple of questions coming through on the chat window, which I shall address now. So Simon and Adam, if you are there as well, if you can take some of these questions, that would be great.
Absolutely.
So the question is, what's the mobile capability of K2? Adam, perhaps you could take that one.
Yeah, okay, so K2 does allow users to play all the forms on mobile devices. All the forms, or the K2 smart forms, are HTML5 compliant. We also have our own applications specifically for iPhones, iPads, Android mobile phones as well. So
it works.
Capabilities.
Yes, I don't know if you guys lost a little bit of Adam just there, but I think, Adam, you were talking about an app that you guys have got for the task list management, haven't you, that's for Android, iPhone, and iPad?
Correct, yeah. And we also have a Windows 8 list coming out soon as well.
Yeah. Good stuff. Thank you very much for that. Another question is SharePoint mandatory with K2, or can you use it on its own?
You can share K2 on its own. K2 does not require SharePoint at all. Okay,
great. And the last question, Simon, is can you explain how you generated that PDF? Did that require a third-party tool, or was that all done with K2?
It was all done with K2. It's a really nice drag-and-drop action you drop onto the canvas when you're designing a workflow to say, grab this form, turn it into a PDF, and then once you've got that, you can save it to SharePoint, as we saw, email, whatever you want to do.
That concludes, and I see there's no more questions come through, so I think that concludes our session. Just like to thank Adam and Simon for providing their demos and their content, and thank you very much to everyone for attending.
Bye.
Thanks all.
Thank you.